The BYU basketball program hosts their home opener against Holy Cross, and on paper, the Crusaders are the worst team that BYU is going to face this season. But the good news is there is a big man, Abdullah Ahmed, on an official visit to BYU for this game, and he could be BYU's next star center.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, executive producer of the KSL Sports Zone in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a 14-year credentialed media member at BYU. I am your resident expert and insiders, your host here on your original daily podcast focused on all things BYU. That's the Locked On Cougars podcast. And of course, thank you for making it your first listen of the day. All right, special edition here as we get ready for BYU basketball's home opener at the Marriott Center, taking on Holy Cross. And the biggest thing to take away from this game is not just the game itself. We'll get to that in just a minute. It's that BYU is hosting an official visit with Abdullah Ahmed. He's a big man who is one of those G League guys that is looking for an opportunity to play collegiate basketball. Now, if you missed what's been happening earlier on this offseason, is that there have been multiple players. I think Santa Clara picked up one. There's a couple other programs who have done that former G League players who never played in college basketball have essentially petitioned and or sued for the right to be eligible to play college basketball. The NCAA lost the suits and obviously has now essentially declared that guys who played in the G League, which mind you is professional basketball, much like certain players have come over from the European leagues like Yegor Dioman, have eligibility and can play college basketball. So BYU has identified Abdullah Ahmed as a potential addition to their roster. He's a 6'10" forward who has spent the last 2 seasons playing for the Westchester Knicks in the G League. Now, if you know that name, Westchester Knicks, you know that's the G League program, or a team, I should say, not franchise, whatever it is, that Jimmer Fredette once upon a time played for while he was spending some time with the New York Knicks. That's really the only thing that I have connection-wise to the Westchester Knicks outside of Ahmed. Now, what he is a true rim protector, and his numbers over the last year in the G League were not that great. 4 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 2.2 blocks. He is a rim protector, and if BYU is where he ultimately decides to go, this feels like a guy who you're looking at as a potential to be a Keba Keita down the line. Because remember, Keba Keita was kind of a rebounding, rim defending machine and then became this vertical lob threat and has become a fantastic piece for the BYU basketball program. I don't know that Ahmed has the same type of hop, same type of athleticism, and or just simply put, just chisel out of granite physique that Keba Keita has, but Keba Keita is going to be out of eligibility after this season, and I don't necessarily think that there's anybody on this roster for BYU right now that I believe is a like-for-like replacement to step in to that 5-man role for this BYU team. So looking at this, I completely understand why Kevin Young is interested in a kid like Abdullah Ahmed. And the other thing is despite his stats not being all that great at the G League level, that is still professional basketball. He has been training literally every single day, working on his game. And the thought is that even though he'll be playing college basketball, all that training, all that focus will bring, I think, an added element to BYU. Guys like Mihailo Boskovic, Alexei Kostic, they have played in the Adriatic League. Boskovic may have been in a different league, but they've played in professional leagues over in Europe. Dominic Diomande, same thing, playing in France. They have experience in professional leagues, and it helps them when they make the transition to top shelf Power 5 basketball. And I think it's the same case here with Ahmed, whereas the G League may not be top tier professional basketball, it is still pro ball. So I completely understand the interest here. Now, they are, speaking of BYU, going up against Houston in this recruiting battle, and he is expected to make his decision shortly after this official visit wraps up at BYU. So I don't have any inside intel to pass along to you saying, hey, I think BYU is going to. I don't know any of that. I'm just looking at it as a way to explain that I think Kevin Young, he is always, I'm talking always, keeping his eyes open for any and all options to bring in talent and bolster his roster at BYU. And as I mentioned, maybe Abdullah Ahmed isn't Keba Keita, but could he pick BYU, come in, and end up being the guy that replaces a guy like Keba Keita next year. Sure feels like that very well could be the case. And as Robbie McCombs wrote over at Vanquish the Foe, it'll be interesting to see how he decides to do this, because as Robbie notes, Houston can take Ahmed right now, where BYU needs him to wait until the end of the season before enrolling in school. So kind of interesting dynamic there as well. Does he want to immediately enroll and redshirt versus maybe waiting, training, and then ultimately enrolling at BYU next summer? Be interesting to see what his decision is, but I can appreciate why BYU is going after this, because it's always feeling like it's recruiting mode, and the whole hashtag Provo, I think this goes exactly to just that. And that could be a really, really solid pickup for BYU should Ahmed pick the Cougars. All right. So that's I think the highlight of this game, because as we're going to talk about momentarily, let's be honest, this Holy Cross team, if you've been looking at the metrics about them, and trust me, I did, they're not great. But there is an opportunity for BYU to put on a show in front of their home faithful, and we'll delve a little bit into that. I'll tell you exactly who to know if you want to really know anybody from Holy Cross in terms of players to note if you're interested in that. But there's something else I'm looking at in tonight's game that I want to see from BYU in particular, and we'll get into that momentarily right here on the special edition of Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at GameTime. Now, if you're trying to get tickets to whatever events you go to, college basketball, college football, literally anything else out there, I want you guys to give our friends at GameTime a shot. They are the best place I have gone for tickets to events I've wanted to go to, because my favorite part about all the features they offer is what you see is what you pay. There's no extra fees being tacked on at the end. All of a sudden, there's a whole litany of things being as you check out saying, hey, how did my ticket price jump up like that? There's none of that. What you see is what you pay. And you also can see exactly what your seat view is inside the app. And it's honestly the fastest, easiest, and most simple way I've ever gone about buying my tickets to events. I want you guys to give it a shot as well. So take a guess, we're going to buy your tickets and do it with our friends over at GameTime. Download the GameTime app today. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege and get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Once again, use the promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go, download GameTime today. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. All right, so I am looking forward to being out at the Marriott Center tonight, and I will be there on press row. So if you guys know where that's at, come by and say hello. I'll probably be walking around the concourse a little bit before the game, but looking at this game on paper for BYU against Holy Cross, this is the worst team right now on paper BYU is going to face. If you look at KenPom.com, because I am a big fan of KenPom.com, I think KenPom absolutely kills it. The KenPom rating for our friends at Holy Cross is 341. Mind you, there are 360 some odd teams in Division I basketball. We're talking this is bottom tier in terms of some of the worst teams in the entire country. And, well, if you look at the numbers, they're 0-1 on the season. They lost by 10 points to Providence, which is actually a win in some ways for Holy Cross. But you look at their roster, and they don't have really anybody in the rotation that is going to be able to protect the rim, I think, to the level necessary to give them even a shot of hanging with BYU. BYU's ability in this game should be able to drive to the rim, and if for some reason you're not able to score at the rim, kick it out and shoot threes. That's what I want to see from BYU in this game, is get back to playing more of the drive and kick game that was a big part of BYU's offense a season ago. Villanova in the opener for BYU made it very difficult. They only got 17 three-point attempts up, speaking of BYU. I know that Kevin Young wants to see somewhere around 30, it feels like. It may not be the 40-plus at times that Mark Pope wanted at BYU, but he still wants to see a number of looks from beyond the arc. Now, if you can score at the rim, you take that every single day. Absolutely. It's the most high percentage shot there is in basketball if you're right at the rim. But those three-point attempts, I think, are going to be going up in this game, because I think this is part of the game plan to get guys extra looks. Guys like Richie Saunders, guys like Kennard Moo Davis, even AJ DeBonsa and Robert Wright III. You should expect them to hoist some threes up to hopefully get some game action and get kind of that feel for getting those shots down. The other thing I want to see in terms of improvement from the Villanova game for BYU is I want to see a better free throw shooting experience, and especially from a guy like AJ DeBonsa. There's a strong correlation, if you look at metrics out there, between free throw shooting and three-point shooting. It's kind of funny how those two go hand in hand for many people. And I think if BYU has a better day at the charity stripe, thereby they should, in theory, have a better day beyond the arc. So I think it goes hand in hand with one another. And then I guess the third thing I'm looking for in this game for BYU is just tighten up their defensive rotations. This should be a game that BYU can essentially name their score and the margin of victory they want to win by, whether it's 25, 30, 40 points, whatever they want to do, they can put the hammer down and do it to this Holy Cross team. I fully believe that. And the other thing is that you need to see BYU work out some of the kinks, because there were times that Villanova got BYU just spinning a little bit on defense. This is a good opportunity against Holy Cross to use it as a get-right game, figure some things out, and start really tightening up things. I know it's early on in the season, and over time, those will evolve, but take advantage of every opportunity you've got if you're BYU. And the next one is this one against Holy Cross. So once again, a 7:00 game, ESPN Plus. If you're going to be out of market or not able to make it out to the Marriott Center, check it out, and it should be a fun night. And we'll do a postcast after this one goes final on Saturday night as well. But as always, truthfully, thank you for your continued support of the show. It has been an absolutely incredible football season today. The basketball season is just getting going, and we're having a ton of fun along the way right here on your original daily podcast, the Locked On Cougars podcast. So until tomorrow, after BYU football wraps things up, we'll postcast on that. And then tomorrow night, obviously, we'll be talking BYU basketball. Have a great night. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day.